welcome back to the Library of Parthos. My name is Sarah, and I have so many feelings about the book we're going to talk about today. I can't... So, have you ever read a book, and I'm sure you have, where you finish it and then you just sit there and stare and think, what in the world am I supposed to do now? That was this book for me. But before we dive into that whole disaster, I got these cute little potion bottles from Target. They were only $1, I think, and I think they're just so cute. And I have some bigger potion bottles that I got, I think also from Target, like last year, maybe 2 years ago. And I wanted to kind of add a few more, and I have this like really cool tray that they sit on. And last year, maybe not last year, maybe it was this year, I don't know. I was working at a comic convention, and I have a Beetlejuice poster, like just a 8.5 by 11 poster signed by Gina Davis. And I really want to display that with like all of these little bottles. I was thinking about kind of placing them around here, but it doesn't really kind of fit with the theme that I have going on. Like this is all very like literary, and I don't really think these little potion bottles kind of fit with that. So I think these are gonna go somewhere else, but I just thought they were so cute, and they were only $1. Like, what a steal. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about this book, because we just gotta get it out of the way. And that is Your Blood, My Bones by Kelly Andrew. I am so mad at this woman. Like this, I'm not even kidding. This it ruined my afternoon. Like when I finished it, I was like, I don't know what to do with the rest of the day. I just sat there and stared out the window, and then I finally got up and like did other things. But then I was like, well, maybe after I worked for a little bit, I thought maybe I'll sit down and read. But I don't want to read anything. Like, nothing is going to be this, and I have no interest in growing attachments to any other characters right now. Like, this is it for me. So I first read a book by Kelly Andrew last year or 2 years ago, and it was The Whispering Dark. I do have a full review of that. I'll link that and also put a link in the description box. That book was stellar. It was, first of all, spooky season, perfect time to read it. The characters I grew so attached to, the romance I was super invested in, so much so that I named my Hogwarts Legacy character after the main character of that book. And so when this came in Illumicrate, which one is this? This is Owlcrate, I think. When this came in Owlcrate, I was like, oh my gosh, love her, have to read it. I don't know that I feel that anymore. I'm just really mad at her. That's all it comes down to. I have no issues with Kelly Andrew as an author. She writes excellent books. I'm just mad. But I was super excited to start this. It seems like it was gonna also be those spooky season vibes. It takes place in Maine. I started it when I was in Maine, so it was like perfect all around. Let's just get into it. Spoiler free first, then we'll get into spoilers and all of the reasons that I'm mad at her right now. Okay, so Wyatt Westlock is our main character. She has been away from her father's estate, we'll call it, for about 5-ish years. Her mother's a witch, her father's an alchemist of sorts, and when he dies, he leaves everything to her. She comes back and discovers her childhood friend Peter chained up in the basement, and there's all this bad stuff happening to the land. She learns about her family's past and finds out that the only way that really everything can go back to normal is with a death, and that death has to be hers by the hand of her childhood friend Peter. And so they are working together to try to figure out a solution to this very challenging problem. That's pretty much it, spoiler free. So let's go ahead and get into the spoilers. If you do not want the end of this book to be ruined for you, please skip to the end of the video. If you just hate spoilers in general, also skip to the end of the video. But we are going to dive in right now. Wyatt Westlock, at the age of, let's say 12 or 13, was crowded into her mom's car with her cat and drove 3 hours away to her aunt's house in Salem, Massachusetts, where she completed all of her high school career, and now as an 18-year-old girl is coming back to her father's house, Westlock Heath. He has passed away and he has left everything to her. So she goes back with the intention of burning it all to the ground. No good memories come from that place. There's a lot of weird stuff that happened. She just wants to forget and move on with her life. So she arrives with a lighter and a gasoline tank. And when she is just doing like one final walkthrough through the house, she finds her childhood friend, Peter, chained in the basement. Before I get any further, this is a dual point of view book. We do get the story told from the point of view of Wyatt and also from Peter. So Peter, the reason he is chained up in the basement is because he is an immortal. He has been alive for 300-ish years, and he is tethered to this plane of existence by a beast, very Over the Garden Wall-esque. And the only way for him to be able to go home to his mother is with the sacrifice of a very strong witch's heart, aka Wyatt. And so he fully intends to kill her, which is why he's chained up in the basement. Wyatt freaks out when she sees him, has no idea why he is there, what is going on, and eventually, like, he's basically like, I'm just not gonna lie. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. I want to kill you. And so she's like, okay, cool, you could stay there. So tries to leave, no cell service. The phone rings and her other childhood friend, James Campbell, calls her. And she's like, I don't know what to do, James. Peter's chained up in the basement. Like, things are really weird here. I hear, like, coyotes outside. Like, I just don't know what to do. And he reassures her, everything's gonna be fine. I'm on my way. Do not let him go. Don't do any of that. So she goes back to the basement, has another conversation with Peter. And here's kind of what we learn. I'm just gonna summarize it for you. So again, Peter is an immortal. Around 300 years ago, in another universe, he was out with his dad. They were cutting firewood, and somehow his dad accidentally cut him with the axe, like stuck it in his gut. And so he wanted his son to survive. There was this beast kind of lurking around at the opportune moment and was like, hey, I'll save your son if I can eat your heart. And so the dad offers himself up as a sacrifice so that he can save his son. Peter and the rest of his surviving family are immortal. They're all tied to Peter though, so if he dies, the rest of them die. And Peter got scared, he ran away. It was the time of day where things were shifting, and he accidentally ended up in the current, like, world universe at Westlock Heath, and that is where he has been ever since. As an immortal and somebody who is directly connected to the beast, the alchemists at Westlock Heath have come up with a solution for keeping the beast and other dark forces at bay. They need blood and they need bones. They are able to access the blood of the beast through the sap of some dead trees that are growing, or not growing, I guess, because they're dead. And as far as bones go, what bones would be better than an immortal? So they just constantly kill Peter, burn him up, and then grind his bones up into dust and use that to kind of keep everything at bay. Wyatt's dad kind of takes over, and he's like, this is barbaric. We have to stop. We cannot keep killing this kid and then just waiting for him to, like, respawn and then kill him again. Like, that's so inhumane. So he is working so hard to try to find a better solution. While Wyatt is a child, again, she and Peter and their friend James are together every summer. She goes away to school in the fall, and so does James. So Peter's the only one kind of left there. And then when they come back in the summer, they play together all summer. They're really, really best friends. Like, they are so close. It becomes noticeable to them and also noticeable to Wyatt's mother that she possesses a very different type of magic that her father doesn't possess. She is able to rot things, not make things grow. And so her mother kind of picks up on that and realizes that it might be very dangerous for her daughter to be there. If that power was discovered by any of the other men who are involved in this, like, secret guild trying to protect the forest, knowing what they've done to Peter, they might try to do something similar to Wyatt. So her mother decides, and I think her father is collectively in agreement that she needs to leave. And so that is why she is taken away to Salem for the rest of her young adult career. So when she comes back to Westlock Heath, eventually Peter is released from the chains, and they kind of just, you know, try to figure it out. Like, he doesn't want to kill her, but he really doesn't know a better way to go home to his mother that is waiting for him supposedly after 300 years. Obviously, Wyatt doesn't want to die, but she also doesn't want the beast and the other dark creatures getting any closer, and she doesn't want the world to be swallowed up in darkness, which is the imminent threat. So they have until the blood moon, which is about 2 weeks, to figure something out. Peter can kind of hear the beast in the back of his mind, and he is very aware of like the goings on of things. Wyatt is not. She's kind of oblivious to what's going on. So she keeps getting these phone calls from her friend James. Peter's like, please don't answer those. Throws the phone away. It still rings. And eventually Wyatt gets a call from her mother, and her mother says like, hey, I'm coming to get you. Just go to the end of the road. And Wyatt's like, there's some scary stuff out there. I don't think I want to do that. And her mom says like, hey, you're a Westlock. It's going to be fine. They're going to let you pass. Nobody's going to mess with you. So she goes out into the forest, and surprise, it was not actually her mother. It was a mimic the whole time. And so she is getting pursued through the forest when all of a sudden her friend James finally arrives and saves her, and she and Peter and James go back to the house. What's interesting about James is that he died 5 years ago. So Peter knows that the beast has dug up James's corpse and is now inhabiting it, but Wyatt doesn't know that. So she thinks they're all still safe, that the wards are still in place, that everything's fine inside the house. Meanwhile, the beast is just living in there with them. So as they're trying to find a solution, a way to stop everything that is happening, she and Peter, of course, grow closer. Wyatt learns a lot about Peter's history. For example, she didn't know that he slept in the little chapel in the woods on a dirty mattress on the floor in the cold with just a little lantern out there. She doesn't know that he has little keepsakes under his mattress from their summers together as children. She doesn't know that James's father found out about Peter's immortality and poisoned his own son and said, you have about 90 minutes to go kill that kid and take over his immortality. But of course, James refused. He didn't want to kill his friend and ended up just dying anyway. Do you see why I'm mad? Like, this is a heartbreaking story. And there's so much. I'm trying to like provide enough context so you can understand what these characters are going through, but there's just so much trauma and you feel so strongly for these characters. So let's kind of wrap up like the middle section of the book. So Wyatt's in a lot of danger. Things are not going well at Westlock Heath. The darkness and the impending forces are creeping closer and closer and closer. She and Peter are also becoming closer and closer and closer because James just kind of pops in and out. Remember, he's inhabited by the beast, so he just kind of shows up when it's convenient. So eventually, Wyatt's cousins just kind of show up. They're like, hey, we have to tell you something. We were contacted by your friend James, and Wyatt's like, I don't really understand what that means. He's right here. And they're like, no, he's dead. Sorry. We were contacted by his spirits. His spirit said to find us because we might be able to help solve this situation a little bit. So Wyatt, Peter, her cousins go home, and she kind of has it out with her mom. Not like an argument or anything, but just kind of like, let's clear the air and let's like be really honest about what happened. So her mom kind of fills in the last of the missing pieces. Essentially, there is this silver half-moon pendant that was given to Wyatt by her dad. It is the fail-safe, as he calls it. If nothing else, that will eliminate the beast, and it will heal this gap between the worlds that has been widening. So at the very, very least, she just needs to destroy the necklace. that will destroy the tether that the beast has with James. James will most likely go back to being dead, but everything will be completely fine. Wyatt is concerned, of course, about what's going to happen to Peter, so she is hopeful that this will be enough of a solution that nothing happens to him. I think at this point Peter has confessed that he's in love with her, and I think she may have said the same as well. I'm not positive about exactly where that happens, but at the end they're ready for their like final stand. So they go back to this little chapel in the woods. Wyatt has the necklace. She asks James to leave because as of now, he is James. He is fully in control, but the beast is still in there, and she doesn't want him kind of messing it up at the last minute. So unfortunately, they ask him to leave, and they have a very not touching goodbye. It's very abrupt. Wyatt notices that there's a clasp on the necklace and that it opens like a locket. Inside is blood and some ashes. And at this point, Peter says, like, yeah, it's the blood of the beast and some bone dust or ash or whatever it's called, meal, I don't know. When it mixes with the air, it's going to oxidize, it's going to evaporate, and then that will be enough to close everything down. At which point, Wyatt's brain finally turns on, and she says, wait a second, the beast was never tethered to James. That's not what's keeping him here. He was tethered to you. And so we're destroying not only the beast, but we're destroying the connection that you have to this world as well. And he's like, yeah, like that's the only way. I'm sorry, there was no other way to do this. And so Wyatt is completely outraged at this turn of events. And so fully releasing her powers, she accidentally turns a dying / dead Peter into a banshee, which is just this like corpse that she can control, and she feels terrible that she did that. It's not fair to him. He never wanted to become a killer. He was used and mistreated and abused and tortured by these people, and it led to him doing things that he never wanted to do. And so she feels incredibly terrible that she accidentally did that to him, and is able to release the magical hold on him. James hears her screaming. He comes back, and in a final show of like heroism, I guess, he stabs Peter through the heart, and that is enough to get rid of the banshee and really just finish everything off. So there's this giant like sinkhole that everything is kind of sucked into. She and James take Peter's body and run away. The beast leaves James, and it is just the two of them with Peter's body that they then bury in the woods along with the other iterations of him. I'm gonna like cry talking about this. It's heartbreaking. So every time he was like respawned, he buried his body, and so they buried him next to him, if that makes sense. And so Wyatt and James decide to leave Westlock. Heath, there's nothing there anymore. They finally burned the house. There's no need for anyone to be there. Everything is over. It's done. And so they're able to move on with their lives. And the last line of the book was something like, Wyatt left with, and she left her heart behind, buried in the woods to grow into something beautiful, which I think is like that. Literally, I was like holding my heart out in my hand at that point. Like, what do you want me to do with this? It's broken. So that is the end of Your Blood, My Bones. There's so much. There's no way I covered everything. So please read the book for yourself. But a couple of final thoughts to wrap up today. The acknowledgement at the end, the author states that she wanted to write a book that kind of mirrored the emotion that you have when you think back on your childhood and you think about how happy you were and how like perfect everything seemed, but also melancholy because you know that you'll never get that back. And I have never thought of writing a book to depict a soul emotion before, and I think that that is an amazing way to write a story. And this did it for sure, because there's so many flashbacks to our characters as children being seemingly happy, and also just knowing that like it's never going to be any better than it was. And that is just again, heartbreaking. And I'm so angry that she put me through that. I'm so mad that Peter died. I'm glad James was alive at the end though, because I was worried about him. But man, whew, that was something. So I'm gonna go sob for the rest of the day. If you've read this book, let's please talk about it, because there's still so much more to say. If you haven't, run, don't walk to get your copy and read it now. And then let's talk also. So that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.